We're getting there, I promise. So, now we're prepared to graduate. Now what? Well, he wants to go to college, and he's capable of going to college. So, you need to have your needs met. You need a special room in college. You need to have access to your computers at all time because you're legally blind and so forth. Well, to get all those things outside of a regular school, public school, you no longer have an IEP for protection. But you can get your needs met, but you need a diagnosis. So we took a hiatus from visiting doctors after we started to see a change and knowing that probably what we were dealing with was a brain injury and a concussion. So back to, we need a doctor that can now identify what's happening and write the information down to secure Patrick's needs. And we did. We found a local neurosurgeon here in Pittsburgh who took him in and said, I'm going to re-MRI him in my machines, and I'm going to evaluate him by my standards. And then I'm going to read his medical chart, which was about yay big. And then we'll meet back in about a month and talk. Okay. We did that. We sat down with this wonderful man, and he said to us, well, I read your chart, and after having looked at your MRIs, which show there is no damage in your brain visible, knowing what you've been through, reading all the test results, he said, I can literally say to you, you have physically, genetically proven you're not sick. There's nothing wrong with you per se. But he said, if you go back to the very beginning when all this started, he said, son, this is what a brain injury looks like. Say it again. Yeah. He said, now, I can't explain to you why it was missed or why things happened the way it did. We can't explain all that by the brain. I can't explain why your cognitive self came back, but your physical self didn't, and your vision hasn't yet. But whatever it is that you're doing, you need to keep doing and write it down. And someday we'll probably write a book about somebody like you. So I'll sign whatever paperwork you need me to sign. I'll get you in to see an adult neurologist who can continue to sign paperwork if you need it, and we'll go from there. But he said, you had a brain injury. You had a concussion that wasn't treated, and these are the effects of a brain injury. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so, with that, we did all of our paperwork. And Patrick put out applications, 6 to be exact, and he was admitted to all 6 universities. He went to Lynn University in Boca Raton. He was on an accelerated program and graduated in 3 years with 3 degrees, summa cum laude. Finished, applied to law school, got into every school he applied to, and chose to go to Pennsylvania State University's law school. And that's where he's at now. And he's doing really well. 2 years ago, he came to us and he said, you know, I feel like things might be changing again, but I'd like to try. I said, what do you mean? He said, I feel like maybe I'm not as imbalanced anymore. So we went back to his original physical therapist, and his name's Nate Romsberg, and you'll hear from him in this series as well. And Nate said, well, let's see what you got. And slowly, in a few months' time, he stood on his own for the first time after being in a wheelchair for 7 years. He took his first steps after all of that. To now, Patrick uses a walker probably 95% of the time. When he needs to cook or do something that requires both hands, he'll sit in his wheelchair and roam around. But he's doing good. He's doing really good. His eyes are still messed up. And we still have hope because in my research, I've found some new places that might be able to do something that he's not had before. But I can't speak on that just yet because I have to wait to see what he would like to do. But that's kind of why our story was so impactful to so many people, is that it was jaw-dropping and it was devastating and it was ugly at times, and it was also very beautiful at times because it proved that out of darkness, light can come. With perseverance, good will oversee the bad. With the idea of never giving up, you can be successful. What I didn't talk about yet is the mental aspect of this. It was mentally taxing on all of us. Patrick, of course, probably the worst. But when you talk about an injury or sickness with anybody, if you don't acknowledge that there's some mental health issues, then you're living in denial. We're going to do a whole series on mental health. And when we do that, I'll probably pipe in with another video about what we all experienced. But yeah, it was hard. So it impacted Inc. That's most of his story and our story in a nutshell. I could talk for days and tell you story after story, but I think now you get the idea. We want to be the beacon of light at the end of everyone's tunnel. It's dark and it's scary sometimes, but you can overcome. Most concussions will recover within days or weeks. Some take longer. Very few cause a loss of consciousness. There is very few that will show up on an MRI or CT, and that's because that would be not just a concussion, that would be a brain bleed or a tumor or what have you, and our doctors will talk about that in our series as well. But concussions are mostly diagnosed by the symptoms. And as we discuss those symptoms through this series of videos, I hope that you are able to recognize Patrick had them all. Every single one. And they were missed. I don't want any other parent to miss a symptom or a sign, because the faster that you can get help, hopefully, the quicker your recovery can be. But every recovery is different, and every brain injury is different. Impacted Inc. is here to change how we talk about this particular subject. Share it. Let everybody know who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. Without our brains, we can't function. But with a good one, we can do anything. Patrick is proving that. Stay tuned.